Hello everyone, I just wanted to talk about some things on a whim, about my life, my channel, and just some thoughts. It might be a bit more personal, but yeah. So a lot has changed since I first started my YouTube channel at the end of 2021. It's now early 2023, and yeah, so much has changed. I started this channel originally as I was going through an awakening, many awakenings, mainly through psychedelics and discoveries of various teachers on the internet. And I do think the awakenings were real for the most part. Like they are, like awakening and spiritual awakening is real phenomenal. I certainly think there's potential. So you can have a legitimate awakening, but that you can mix it up. Like you can still have like false ideas potentially that kind of get mixed up with that. So like for example, you can have legitimate like non-duality experiences on psychedelics, but and then you think you've awoke, therefore like everything's just. I think in like Susan Kagorda's model of the 9 stages of ego development, there's a stage called the expert, which is far from the highest stage. And it's like, when this person's in this stage, you can't tell them anything that they don't already know. And I was definitely in that for a while. It's like the awakening just makes you think, oh, I've awoke, therefore I know the whole deal. But it's a lot more nuanced than that, and I think it's ever evolving, just life and maturity. I think it just goes on forward to infinity. I don't think you ever reach like a pinnacle understanding, like you can do in some awakening sense, but I think there's always like more growth, more deeper understanding and evolution to be had. So there's that. So in general, I've come to take a much more relaxed approach, somewhat. So like one of the main things, and I'm gonna do a podcast with Adeptus Psychonautica on Monday, so stay tuned for that. And I think one of the main things I'm going to be speaking about is just this kind of like spiritual psychosis, where it's like everyone around me was kind of like concerned for me, and I was like, well, you're concerned about the wrong things, because I'm having awakenings and you're just eating poison. So like I have so many unreleased trip reports, and they're somewhat for this reason. Like there's certainly delusion with psychedelics, there's no doubt. Like I had a video taken down and got a strike on my channel because it was called I don't know how I feel about it. Like there's that, like I got influenced by particular people, as I think I was, or people have pointed out that I'm somewhat easily influenced. But I think I just like, I'm so searching for answers that I'm so like open-minded somewhat, where I feel. But like the title of the lecture was like called Cure All Disease, and I was on 7 grams of mushrooms, and like I know Leo Gura says like you got to be careful about like making rash decisions on a whim, like after or while on psychedelic trips. And that's what a lot of my first content was. I was just like, I picked up the camera while I was tripping after having an awakening, and then I just start ranting. And then just because like the awakening was authentic, but it doesn't mean like everything that comes out of my mouth was. But it's a good thing that I can recognize this now. I still fundamentally stand by like the main ideas somewhat, but it's less of like, because for example I had like this full-blown non-duality awakening, where like all boundaries dissolved, where I took a 3/5 of Liberty Cap mushrooms one day and 5 grams the next day. And I just completely got obliterated. And then, like, I was having this awakening and I was filming it and everything. But then after I get up and I was like, if you just, like, drink Red Bull because everyone else does, and get the vaccine because everyone else does, then you're a sheep, you're a wake up, you're a sheep. Now, I was saying that I'm not saying that is the case now. But it's a lot more nuanced than we're awake, they're asleep. Like, that's such like a black and white duality. But my approach has shifted more from the side, if you're familiar with a few influence. So, for example, we have Alan Watts and a rapper called Spectrum over here, and these guys are in like more non-duality, like pure source or truth. And then over here we have more like Mr. Traumatic, Inspector Veg. And I don't know, I don't want to hate, like, I'm not hating, but it's just like the kind of duality. And I do think like the system is corrupt. I'm sorry, I'm just ranting a bit. Like, obviously Babylon, like the Western culture, like, I do think a lot of it, yeah. And that's one of the main things I want to speak about today is my desire to escape this culture, I think. But yeah, my kind of ideology has shifted a lot more to a lot more nuanced, calm approach, like Alan Watts and Ram Dass and Spectrum, rather than like preaching, saying you're a sheep because you eat poison. You know what I mean? Like, I know like Mr. Nature and his girlfriend Miss Sunshine. I'd done a separate podcast individually with each of them, and I was talking to them like, how do you feel about like the Western food and the poison and that? And they were like, yeah, you are right, like it does cause illness, however it hasn't necessarily got to be that serious. Like, there's also like joy in like Halloween, where children go out and, like, you know, it's on the streets and engage in those, even though it's poison. Yeah, like, it was only like 4 months ago something, I wrote like a massive paragraph about how if you send your children out on Halloween, you're just plain evil. And like, I still like, I wouldn't send my child out, and I really don't think I would like fill them with like sugar and that stuff of that nature. Even though I enjoyed it when I was a kid, I get it, but there's a difference, because like our culture is very hard to get away from like the polluted food. But yeah, so I don't think I'd ever, and I feel like I'd like educate them from the ground up of like understanding why Halloween of this nature is like not really, I mean, I get it, it's fun, it hasn't got to be that serious, but I don't want to fill my child with like this, you know, I don't know, like sweets and chocolate and shit, like, and even though I indulge in it occasionally, my diet is far from amazing, but it's quite difficult at the minute. So I've been dealing with poverty, very heavy poverty really, for like well over a year, and this only started when I started doing psychedelics again. So I'm 19 now. When I was like 16 or 17, I had a few months of doing psychedelic mushrooms, and I remember at the end of that I was like, wow, that was definitely a mental journey. I kind of indulged like every 2 weeks or so, and I had really horrible terror trips and really enlightening, amazing experiences. But it was quite nuanced, but it really expanded my idea of what reality and consciousness is capable of. And I came out of that, and then I remember Michael Pollan has this analogy that psychedelics, your brain is like a settled snow globe, and psychedelics will shake that up. So say if you're depressed, it will shake up your like snow globe, and it will resettle in a different fashion, potentially leaving leeway to cure depression or find new ways of being. And I thought, because I was abusing them like every 2 weeks, that I'd like permanently shaken the snow globe. So it took me about a year to feel like resettled. And then the mushrooms were back in town again. They were available. And I was like, I want to pursue psychedelics. But I was like, but why would I pursue psychedelics? Because I'm happy with the trajectory of my life. I had a decent job, and a new house, many things. So I remember the decision was, I was like, right, I can, I'm happy with the trajectory of my life. I only just feel like mentally settled from doing psychedelics that much after about a year. So I thought, if I'm happy with the trajectory of my life, why would I go back to psychedelics? I chose to go back to psychedelics, mainly psilocybin mushrooms. And I don't really mess with ketamine or man-made substances, no. It's more about the holistic, healthy way of going about it. And what the psychedelics taught me was that actually the trajectory that I was on, that I thought that I was happy with, I was actually not happy with. So I was like self-deceived, and after the psychedelics enlightened me about how this is not how I want to spend my life, and there were so many things that I was not taking into account, it made me like, I made many decisions, and my life like did literally turn upside down. In the bigger picture, I think it would help me, because it turned upside down because what it was not what I wanted it to be, really. And Leo Gura again says, if you take them all the time, depending on how you're working, like where you are and that, like I realized that my job was not the job I wanted. And that was my first video I ever uploaded on this channel, which is you can still find it on Rumble, I think, but I've had to take down many videos because my channel was a little bit under threat at the minute. And in terms of the channel strikes, again, I'm taking a much more sensible approach, so I really could not stomach, really. I'm quite attached to this like channel. I don't want to have it taken down because of some like ideology about the pandemic or whatever. Like, I mean, I get it, there are things worth saying about it, but I got to do it in a much more mature way, and a much more nuanced way. It's not just so without ranting the way I used to, kind of. And this is a good thing, because you see now I sound a lot more sensible somewhat, I think. And yeah, it wasn't that long ago, only 3 months ago or something, I was like what I'm saying, like I'm right, like fundamentally in a lot of the ways, a lot of the things I'm speaking about, but it's like the way I was going about it. Like, yes, everything's poison, but does it really matter to everyone, or is everyone sovereign to choose what they care about? And I was very much more in like a Conor Murphy kind of paradigm. So I saw that kind of attractive from the outside. It looked very cool to me so I saw this kind of like super psychedelic abuse awakening paradigm from the outside, and I was like, that's cool. And then I kind of went towards that, but when you're in the thick of it, it can get very difficult. So today, just now, I just like started crying like twice in the space of like 20 minutes. I was watching a video just about freedom, and I want to touch on this in a minute, but I think like the day before or 2 days before, I started crying 3 times in one day. And but they're not necessarily, I'm not crying because I'm sad. I'm crying like 2 days ago when I had like three of them. It's like that what I call like somewhat awakening, where it like crying feels like working through trauma a bit. It can be many things, like just beauty and awe and joy and gratitude. Something I thought of yesterday is, or like what's been happening to me is, like I'll say I love you to my dog, and I just feel that for what it is in the moment, and sometimes it just breaks my heart a bit, or I laugh at something and I just pause and feel like the laughter and the joy, like in that moment for what it truly is. And then, but this is just also like, that's in the midst of all of this complexity that I've been trying to figure out my life, and I've been growing and realizing a lot that I've been saying is a load of bollocks and things like that. Why is my foot gone numb? That is really weird. What the fuck? Ooh. And just now, yeah, I was just watching a video, this girl talking about, this woman talking about becoming a free human. And this is kind of what motivated me to speak here a little bit today, is just the future. Like, I know that like Alan Watts and that speak of like how everything's in the present moment, like why the need to develop yourself, you know? Like you keep on seeking, but everything's like perfect in the present moment. I get it, and I appreciate every step of the journey. And I'll get into some of my fundamental metaphysics of the nature of reality in a second, because I think that's important. And I'm sorry if I'm not tying any loose ends. I know this might not be the greatest of videos. So, like, regardless of like all these like philosophies and that, so like say that rapper Spectrum I referred to earlier, he's very like pure source or somewhat, and again he's over here with Alan Watts, Mr. Nature and Mrs. Sunshine, and like he understands like somewhat like the truth of like the no self, and the God playing man, and we'll get into those metaphysics. But he's like, one of his lyrics, he goes, "It's unfortunate I won't feel shit until I make a fortune. Is that my ego's distortion, or am I just being real? What am I supposed to tell my kids when love don't pay the bills?" And it's like, all of this is all good, like the spiritual awakening, but like, I'm willing to have attachments to the dream that we live in, where I do want to, and I feel like I need really like success. But what I mean by success is like really finding my people, because, and I'm not being like a victim. I don't want to just blame Western culture like for my situation or nothing, like I did do in the past a bit. But like, it's like coming from where I am now, I don't want to be where I am now. Like I said, I've been in poverty for like well over a year now, and it only started when I started doing psychedelics again, and that is like a sign that they kind of make you unstable. And again, the instability with psychedelia is what I'm going to talk to Adeptus Psychonautica about on Monday, so stay tuned for that. I'm on Spotify as well, and Google Podcasts, and so yeah, like awakening often, and like psychedelic use and things like that, they can make you unstable if you push it really, really far. Again, I had this really close friend of mine, got very interested in like the Kybalion and breath work and jiu-jitsu and mad things like that, and sorted all this diet out and taken magic mushrooms, and he was so serious about it, like the way I am. And I'm always going to be somewhat serious about awakening. Like, I really do kind of like the Leo Gura approach somewhat, where it's like, I really want to know. I really want to understand. And I think this is the fundamental thing that a lot of the awakening, like, non-duality people kind of miss out. It's like, there's more to life than just awakening. Kind of, well, not even just that, but like, I swear, and again, Leo Gura says, and I really hold this as my own understanding now, is that reality hinges from understanding. It's not just stop thinking. Like, I get it, there's that, but I swear understanding is underrated in the spiritual community. Like, the fact that reality can understand itself, and things like this. It goes a lot deeper, I think. There's many nuances to awakening, and God realization, which again I'll get to in a second about my metaphysics. So yeah, I feel like I do need success. Like I do want to reach my full potential, and I know these are like ego games and there's nothing to do ultimately, but it's like I need to create, I need to build, I need wealth, I need to find my people, I need to travel, I need mystical experience, I need many desires fulfilled. Again, Leo Gura has a video called Burning Through Karma, which dovetails with this a bit, where it's like, yes, you can ultimately let go of everything, but also is there not wisdom in actually going to pursue your desires? So it's just the situation I'm in now. Like, so yeah, I got paid like a few days ago. So I got removed from my house. I got removed from I basically had my own flat for about just over half a year, I think. But the people around me, my family, were so concerned about my psychedelic use and my YouTube channel that they removed me from my own sovereign house, which they did have the power to do, as it wasn't technically in my name. So I moved back in and integrated more with family, which now, so Leo Gura has a video called How Socialization Makes You Stupid. Now, and this is somewhat how the Matrix has taken me, you know, I'm starting to question, do I have psychosis? I don't actually really believe in like psychosis somewhat, and like bipolar. I think I was researching bipolar. I seem to have a lot of these like pendulum swing, very intense, like manic and then manic depressive or whatever tendencies. But I think these are like, I believe in my authentic natural tendencies. Like I don't think I have like something that I need the medical industry to like medicate me for, as if I'm just like fucked up from the like I believe in the authenticity. I don't think I would have incarnated into a broken like being and I'm just fucked, like and I'll get into the metaphysics again, which will be very important in a minute. So yeah, I moved back in with family, and I think this is partly responsible of why I'm more grounded now, is because I'm not alone and my mind isn't manifesting. And I really liked the mind manifestingness of being alone and taking psychedelics, because that's where genius, like Nikola Tesla says that like genius spawns in deep solitude. And I felt that manifesting, and it was good, but I was also becoming very derailed very fast. And again, I don't think like Ramana Maharshi technically got derailed very fast. He had an awakening spontaneously at a very young age, and then just sat in a cave, didn't exercise, and he just like rotted away. I swear he got eaten by like rodents and shit, like, and he just said, I'm not the body. And that's somewhat like relevant to my friend who killed himself. Like, I understand relatively that he became very ungrounded, and what a shame. And I do understand, I would never advocate it, but like ultimately, metaphysically, like everyone has their own sovereignty to take their life. And if you really contemplate into like the deep metaphysical nature of reality, existential philosophy, scriptures, shit like that, like no one can tell you shit ultimately. But I would never advocate it, and it is a big shame. And I'm going to make a video about this, I think, more in the future, but I've been trying to avoid the subject a bit, because I didn't want people to try and find somebody to blame, because I was very much more unhinged back in the day, and I was a good friend of his, but I was also kind of a victim to this kind of like where the spirituality really makes you unstable, but that's if you're going to take a purely metaphysical approach to it, instead of like an actual grounded, like try and find a ground in reality and do the personal development like that. But yeah, I don't know, but that's not something I want to touch on at the minute. So yeah, I'm a lot more grounded now with my family and things. So yeah, now I live here, and when I first moved here, I went into like quite a deep like depression or like energy shift, which was quite strange. And energy shifts seem to be quite something in actual awakening. And again, awakening from the outside seems like you might understand it from standing in your like sober perspective, but when you're in the midst of awakening, and like it can get very confusing at times. And I do really believe, well, I think I know, like real qualia metaphysical awakening is a legitimate thing, of like really understanding your place and questioning everything. And so yeah, I was really struggling, and I was trying to get a job. I eventually landed a job at like the worst pay fast food, and that's where I am at the minute. So I got paid, and it's really, really not good pay, and I'm sick of being so poor for so long. It's like I'm always like, and I know I don't have to worry about it, but I'm like always like looking at my bank, and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to make it to the end of the month, and I have to borrow off people that I love, and I don't like doing that. And it's a shame. I just keep seeing this pattern where and I think this is somewhat again with the psychedelic instability and awakening. It's like I need to get my feet on the ground and be a lot more grounded. It's what I'm going to focus on a lot more now, because since I started taking the psychedelics like that, I seem to have lost my ground, because I used to have money, but then the psychedelics and the awakenings and that, and then all I've known since then is poverty and mental fluctuation, bipolar tendencies, the deepest depression I've known. Not always, like I wouldn't say I'm depressed now, but I still go in and out of it, like, but I'm not labeling myself as depressed at the minute. Like when I started my channel, I was really, really fucked up. Like you can find my live streams on Rumble and things still, but like it was like depression, but like proper psychosis shit. Like, and again, I was alone, abusing psychedelics, and like the way that my mind was just so like, and it, like awakening part of awakening for like people who are more rational is just like the simple understanding that your mind is creating the world. And when you really start to observe that, and like things can like fall apart, like what if your paradigm is a house of cards, and then you like awaken and become more and more open-minded, what you was has to die. And that's what people have seen with me. Like I put like a compilation of messages. I got like loads of messages going, go back to the normal, bound, like where did you go, we miss you, man. And it hurts to hear that kind of a bit, but I know ultimately, like, I'm still happy I abused the psychedelics and that, because I'm just shedding layers of who I'm not. And I love change. Like, all you're gonna see from me, I think about this every single day of my life. If change was a girl, I'd have to make her my wife. I wasn't in abundance, now I'm paying the price. Was frozen for a moment, now I'm breaking the icy. My higher self was waiting to have a conversation. I thank you for your patience, I'm finally awakened. But yeah, so I'm literally so yeah, I basically have to go, unfortunately, to my wage slave job. But and then again, I'm being more grateful for the opportunity to even get paid and not be an absolute slave. So yeah, it gets confusing sometimes, but I've got to. I read a quote that was, it said, being happy is the most revolutionary choice someone can make. And it's been really hard for me. And I'm not about like, I know Hamza is like a personal development YouTuber and that, and like overall like, but the whole like manosphere kind of thing, like I'm starting to really not kind of abide by really at all. Like that Hamza reckons that sharing your emotions is evil and you should be stoic. And if that works for you, that's fine. But I'm finding myself more to be a lot more like of like a feminine healing energy, and I'm okay with that. Like if there's plastic in my blood and pesticides Atrozyme is a pesticide and it's turning all the men feminine. They're altering human genotypes and making a brand new specimen. You need some plant-based medicine, because this world we're living is not nice. They're spraying the cities with chemtrails. Oh, I can't remember. But yeah, so, yeah, I don't know. So I'll sort that out, yeah, but I don't know. I think there's I don't think necessarily, like, I think male and female energy is more nuanced again, not just like be so conservative about, like, Andrew Tate. I can't believe I ever used to fucking abide by him at all. Like, he says some cool things, but it's because I was in like the fuck the Matrix ideology, but it's just stupid. Doesn't even make any sense. Nah, Andrew Tate is not the one. But look, I basically got to go. But the metaphysics, oh fuck's sake, I don't want to go. But somewhat, yeah, my metaphysics. I got to finish on this because I said I was going to. I'm sorry that I had to go. But I think it's been long enough, somewhat, and I hope. I don't know. I might make a new channel. I'm gonna start from the ground up again in the future, I think. So just watch out for that. But right, so my metaphysics somewhat is that, like, I cannot believe, and I try not to believe in believing, but like, I understand and I know there's no fucking way that this is a fluke, this existence. That just does not compute in terms of, like, all I've seen is that through time and potentially with psychedelics and awakening and that, it's just like, it's all meant to be. And I know it's so comforting to believe that, even though it's confusing and it hurts a lot of the time. But like, there's no way that we're just some bacteria or whatever on a rock, and this brain just origins to consciousness. Like, this materialistic way of thinking just baffles me, because it's like, it's not. Why do you? I don't know. It just cannot be. So it's like So you spawn in and you're lost, kind of how I am now, and over time, I think this is somewhat what you can refer to as God realization, where like the dots get more and more interconnected, where your understanding evolves and matures and grows, but it's like you incarnate. I believe and I trust so deeply in the universe. That's what it is, and with this trust, it has to be more metaphysical than material, because I don't believe that, like, it's a fluke. And it's like, I believe in the ultimate end, the absolute end. All loose ends are tied, and I don't think there's any room. I believe in the divinity of how this will unfold, and I know it seems like a comfort mechanism, but it's more of like something that I actually cannot believe could be any other way. Like, I don't understand, like. It's like something I know, and especially on psychedelics and that, I feel it deeply. It's like, of course, how could I be so fucking stupid to think that it's anything else? It's like and over time you go through the motions, and it's like, one thing I was thinking is somewhat, is like, you delay your and you limit yourself as like your ultimate nature is like the infinite Godhead, pure infinity, and then it divides itself and puts itself into like restricted forms, with limits, in order to, and then you, like, because you can experience like the other and limited and like suffering and like the story of your life somewhat, but like, and then it's like everything that you don't have, like, you deprive yourself as God and you fool yourself into like, I believe that I'm Baron, a human, but I know that I'm not. As a God playing man, I just hope you understand. What is it? I can't remember. But you're a God. You're God playing man. You're the awareness fundamentally, and you, like, if God is all powerful, does God have the power to deceive himself? So then you, like, fool yourself and you believe that you're this person, and then through awakenings you realise that you're just the ultimate Godhead. And it's not an egoic thing to say that, because I don't have like an ego to get scratched by it, because it's like, I don't know, it's like, I don't know, it's hard. And then, like, through time, like, I might be confused now, I might have been confused especially this morning, feeling lost and depressed, but it's ultimately, it's like, you do it because in the bigger picture, it's like, it all becomes clear. And I feel like I know that. It's not like I want to believe it. It's just it wouldn't make any sense for it to be any other way. Yeah, I'll make a more in-depth video about it, but yeah, I just trust in the divinity of it, and like it seems to prove itself time and time again, and it's like inner and outer space are exactly the same, yeah. When you start hearing voices speaking inside of your own brain, yeah. And you might start to feel like you're going just a little insane, yeah. 'Cause inner and outer space are exactly the same.